Lighting Beetle, our customer experience studio based in Bratislava. And hello everybody out there watching our live stream on YouTube. This will also be recorded and published later, so you can get back to it anytime. I'm happy to welcome you here in our very new offices. We have moved here like 4 months ago. We haven't even furnitured everything yet, so it's been kind of challenge to establish everything for the purpose of this meetup. But we are very happy to welcome you everybody here because we used to do this kind of meetups before the pandemic, and we are back to do it again. And we also started this series of lighting talks. We dedicated the first event to the topic of design systems, and that's because we got invited to the global community of organizers among the whole world, because the World Design System Week is happening just this week. It's organized and initiated by Zero Height, which is a platform where you can be building your design systems. So if anybody from Zero Height is watching us, hey guys, and thanks for invitation. And we're about to start speaking about design systems from multiple and various points of view. It's either about building the design systems, like mostly the developers know the stuff, but it's also a lot of work for designers and even copywriters, because there is a lot of UX stuff and documentation, so the design system and all its assets and patterns are accessible for anyone using it. That's why we have two speakers today here with us. I will introduce them once they're ready to come to the stage. The first one will be Močkoř, my colleague, our lead developer from Lighting Beetle, and the second speaker is Beddows, UX copywriter from Škoda. Before we start, I want to invite you to our Slido, so I will just slowly move here so anybody can see and scan the code. You can visit directly the domain slido.com, and you will just type in the login of our event, and then you will be able to see the polls or ask questions of our speakers. We prepared a poll to start with because we are kind of curious about how your relationship with design systems is. So please join our event in Slido. We will wait a bit for anybody here in Lighting Beetle and also people watching our stream. And then we will start with our questions. All right, I can see people watching me again, so I guess everybody just logged in. So I will ask for my first question, please. I have a little helper out there, so I'm hoping everything works just fine. Just give us a couple of seconds, please. And for some reason, all right, we can see that right now. So the first question which we would like to ask you guys is if you have ever got any experience with design systems with either of these roles. You can be a stakeholder, you can be a contributor or a team member who actually builds the design system, or you can be the consumer, anybody building digital products using everything which has been documented and internalized in the design system, or you might not have any experience with design systems. All right, let's get to the second question. Yeah, everybody has their favorite design system, so we would like to know yours. Do you have one? It can be even your own design system which you use within your organization. Let's see, or maybe you like some of those popular ones. This is an open question, so please just type in your answer. It's all right to have no favorite design system. Alrighty, and the third and last question. We are curious about your experience with writing documentation in design systems. I guess many of you have experienced the design systems previously, but do you yourself have experience with writing documentation, and what kind of experience that is? Okay. I think most of the participants already answered. And that's all. Just the 3 easy questions we got you asked about the contributions to design systems. You can get back to the Slido while asking questions after each of the 2 talks. And now let me just get back here, what we call the stage. And this is about time that I introduced our first speaker, which is Adam Močkoř, the lead front-end developer from Lighting Beetle. He's my colleague. Welcome, Adam.
Hey.
And I will leave you the stage, and your talk will be about how we approach building design systems, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Thank
Enjoy.
you very much. Thank you for the introduction. So we will start. There will be some Q&A in the end, so if there's going to be questions, please ask them or do it through the Slido. Okay, so my name is Adam Močkoř, as Dominika said, and I work here in Lighting Beetle. And we are a design studio, and our goal is to build the pleasant customer journeys. We are creating a great customer experience, and we are focusing on digital solutions and with thousands of customers. Our way is quite unique, let's say, because we are in daily contact with our customers and their needs. Our output is based on extensive customer research and design, which is tested, so we can bring a best possible experience from the usage of the product or the service. Currently, there is exactly probably 54 people in LB, and we are experts in fields like design, research, art direction, developers, marketing specialists, content designer, and so on. We are engineers, analysts, psychologists, anthropologists, and lots other stuff. We have some certificates, awards. We are founding members of the SUXA, Slovak User Experience Agency or Agentura, and also organizer of the Experience Conference. We are 13 years in the business, and that we think makes us like stable part of it. Currently, we are working for clients such as Škoda or Orange, and also many others. And finally, me. So my name is Adam. I am a lead front-end developer in this company. I have 8 years of experience with living style guides and design systems in various organizations such as Duovera, NAI, Martinus, or Orange. And today I would like to tell you something about the idea we call project first approach, and this idea to how to build design systems like sustainable with reasonable small teams. I would like to start with a little illustration at the beginning. So there was a situation in the past, a couple years ago, which could be fairly common, I would say, for design system. Maybe you have experienced it too. We were working with our client, and there was a task to build a wizard component on the multiple products at the same time. So, as you can see the similar component on the picture there. The designers were talking to each other in the company. They were sharing ideas, and they concluded that the same pattern is needed and is the best tool for the job. And the pattern itself was not existing yet in that organization. At the same time, the organization also has the design system, which was built with a small team. So the first idea was we are going to do this on multiple projects. The multiple project needs it, so let's build it into design system, because we will do it just once and on one place, and then the product is going to use them basically for free. So it sounds perfect, and we went with it. So what happened? We started build this wizard component, and it took some time, and we managed to release first draft of it. And unfortunately, it was not working because we chose different abstraction in the design system, which were needed on the products, and it was not possible to implement it in a reasonable way. So after some time, we got the feedback from the products. We worked on that. It took some time, and we released the next version of this wizard component. But since this process took the time, and so the requirements already changed on the products, because we do the agile and stuff, so everything changes all the time, as you may know. And so again, the wizard component was basically no good for the products. So clearly that approach was not working. So what was even worse, it created even tension between the product owners of the products and the design system teams. That the design systems is actually a reliable tool for the projects to be more efficient and consistent, as was promised. So how to fix this? I will try to use this little metaphor, which is called theory of the cogs, teória ozubených koliesok in Slovak. And excuse me, and try to illustrate how it could work better. So in this metaphor, the design system itself is like this large cog in the middle of the system, and it means it's large and slow, which means that it's similar than the design in the organization, because the design usually, or design foundation in the organization usually don't change every other day, and the stable base means that the products has a little bit easier life with designing them. Building the patterns and the components usually takes some time in the design system, because we need to build them in the robust way. Because we need to incorporate various needs across the products. We also need to build them in the high quality and document them, and because it's also simpler to do it on one place. And in the design system, we can control this a little bit better. And then it can be consumed by various professionals in the organization over time. And that makes the design system slow, comparing the products, where we usually don't have to bother with that kind of stuff. Products itself are spinning faster because they need to be flexible to user needs. So the design system is that stable driver to drive them with the design, and the product itself could be a little bit riskier and do also more complex stuff, because we need to get the feedback as soon as possible. So, and the whole advantage of that is that when something goes wrong on the product, the whole system, the stability of the whole system usually is still there. So because that's to maintain the stability, that's the design system job. It turns out that some patterns we build on in the products are the good ones and they're working. Then we can standardize them into design system, and the whole system again is starting to be more robust because of that. Because the patterns and the components are already tested, so they should work. They are tested by users actually, because they use them. And that standardization, it takes time and effort. So because we need to add that robustness and improve the quality, usually document that, which was usually not done before. And these things helps the efficiency in the long run. So I would try to prove it with this little example from Dôvera zdravotná poisťovňa. We had their components called header and navigation. As you can see on the example, we built, like in Dôvera, we built products with the help of design system, but without that tight control of it. But the products itself end up quite similar because they are built on on the same design tokens, so the colors and the fonts and stuff is the same. Some patterns you can spot there, like navigation, top one and left one, are kind of similar, but they're also, these two things are different. You can see that one has a gray background, one has a white background. The background of the navigation, left one is blue and white. So it's a different, but it still feels kind of same. And you can think of it of this as a A/B testing almost. So when we are going to standardize the patterns, we already have like something which was working on the products. We can compare this stuff, and we can pick like the best ones, the best approaches, the stuff we got like best feedback on, and we can then standardize the pattern and to the design system, which should incorporate with the help of other products from which we have to get the feedback on too, and incorporates all the needs. Because I just show you just 2 examples, but there are like 5, probably more products there, which has a similar problems, let's call it, and a little bit different needs. So when we do this, we create some new proposal how the navigation could work, and by doing this into design system, we help the robustness and consistency of the whole system in the organization. In the end, it looks like this. There is a website with design system where we document how it should look like, how it should work. We are focusing usually on some kind of behaviors and recommendations, which are a great source of information for every designer to work with. So the designer knows how to deal with different situations with this kind of component. And of course, below there is also some code and other stuff which could be used by developers or other professions using the design. So I'm going to summarize this approach. Before we share stuff like around the organization with the help of design system, we should be actually pretty sure that that stuff is working and is tested by actual users. Less changes and fixes, which need to be done in the design system. Remember, the system is actually moving kind of slow, so the changes and fixes take some time. Is good because we already tested it and fixed it on the product, which is moving faster, and then it means it's also usually like more efficient because we don't have to bother with the documentation, for example. Products built on design system in this kind of approach are usually also less restrictive on innovation in design. So maybe some designers like to tell you that design system is kind of restricting them in their creativity. This approach give them a little bit more free hands with the innovation and creativity. And then we try to standardize what's working from that innovations or from that experiments they do. But still, we have some reasonable boundaries of the design system, so the products end up looking similar. And efficiency is usually the key measure key measurement of the design systems. And with this kind of approach, we have the efficiency on both sides. So we are efficient in building stuff on the products because we can do it fast, and we are efficient in the long run with the design system because we put there stuff that works for the users. So this experience I was just telling you was based on this kind of design systems. There is a question here. Can you spot which one of these examples here are different? And I mean, not the aspect ratio of the image. Do you have any guess which one could be different? It's just a fun fact. Yes, and do you know why? That one is built in Figma. It's another website. It's a Figma prototype, which is clickable and works just like website, but it's not. So that's also a fun way to build a design system, like when you don't have coders, for example, but you want to have something which has a website-like experience for your users. So if there is only one takeaway I'd like you to take from this experience, is that let people build with creativity, give them reasonable limits, and so the consistency is still there and stabilize after real-world usage. That should be it. So thank you. Question time.
Question time, yeah. Just to remind you, we have the Slido where you can ask your questions, whether you are here with us in Lighting Beetle or you are watching us online. You just visit the domain slido.com and enter our events tag, and you will get the opportunity to ask your questions or top the questions of others. So here is actually one question which got 3 likes. And that's how do you keep the design system profitable? Do you bill clients if you use the design system on their product?
We usually build the design system with clients. So the team is usually mixed. There is usually also some kind of product owner from the client side. The product owner could steer the stuff around, and the key measurement is the efficiency. As I said, we try to measure that usually people in the bigger organization remembers how and sometimes they even have data how long it took to design something, to create and deliver some pages, for example. And we can then see how is it improved with the design system itself, if it's improving or not. and we can gather the soft feedback from the designers if it helped them. So if they say the designers that it's helping them, they can estimate like how much time they can like invest and not like invest, but how much time it took them less to do something. Then we can estimate like how efficient it is and how much money it can save. So that's the profit, but in the end, design system is usually not about this, but the design system, the profitability of the design system is that the products itself are usually better with the design system than without. So the design system is not a tool to actually be profitable, but it's time which is invested better, let's say, of the designers.
Thank you for the answer. The next question is, what are the biggest pain points while working on design system?
Pain points. Communication. The biggest pain points of everything, probably, right? Because you have to manage, like usually in a bigger organization, you have to deal with a lot of designers, with a lot of people. You have to communicate them clearly what's going on in the design system, what's changing, what the plans are, because usually they are even interested and invested. So that's good, but also it's an effort on the communication. So that's probably something like how to be efficient in communication. That's probably the biggest pain point, let's say. How to share all the information you have efficiently.
Yeah.
So that's probably...
It's kind of a big thing that influences a lot of parts within the organization.
Yes, exactly. There is like, it influences usually like almost everybody, not everybody, but everybody who is dealing with everybody who is dealing with users, definitely.
Yeah, even the internal users as well.
Yes, even the internal users as well, yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Another question by Samuel. I think the Win95 design system feels very analog and efficient. Has its use cases. What is your opinion on old design systems coming back into fashion?
Not sure if I have an opinion around this. There are some patterns which are like going in routes. I can see it even during my professional life, like the past 10 years, there are some stuff which goes back in style, right? And definitely you can read in the older books on older articles. And for example, there is the famous Apple design manual from the 80s. That there is stuff that is still relevant there. And there is stuff we tend to forget over time as designers because we are usually focused on something new and sometimes even what's the hype, right? And then we forgot some backgrounds, and I can see definitely in the development itself that we are going in rounds. Like in past years, we make stuff complicated and less complicated. So probably this is like the similar with the design itself, Yeah,
and the Win95 can be an example of such coming back to what we previously had.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess.
Another question, do you sometimes build components directly into the design system without going through product teams first?
Yes, we did, because sometimes you have to kickstart even the design system at the beginning, so you have to do something, and sometimes there is like not the place where you can take from. So you have to start somewhere. Some components is less risky than others. When you're going to build like block quote component for some, I don't know, somebody said something. There's probably a less risky component that with our component that is like interactive, and there is a lot of stuff going on there. So everything is like you have to weigh the risks. So sometimes yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and do you think it's all right, or would you rather not be doing that?
Again, it depends on the risks.
Okay.
So the complicated stuff I rather not, and the easier stuff, which is like every design system you can see on the internet has some base component, so I don't have to like take the button and put it on the project and then take it back, for example. Probably at least the base of the button. So it's okay to build that probably directly because there is not much risks there.
We're sorry, our TV wants to go to sleep. We're not letting it. There's some more beer. Okay, and one more question by Vic. When should company consider design system, size-wise or other criteria?
I'd like to tell that there should be more products, usually, because then the efficiency are going up. It could be interesting also for just one product because design system is a great place for storing documentation of all of the design. But you don't get the efficiency of that you're building stuff once and using it everywhere almost. So that's good criteria if you have like multiple products which should be consistent. Yeah. So that's probably the criteria, and also when you are ready as a company, you'll mature enough to go into rounds like we like to be better, for example, in accessibility, better at like we design like more high quality stuff rather than like pushing features onto users. So that's also when design system come into place because that's the place where you can improve this kind of stuff on one place and profit everywhere.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay. Marius asked how to effectively create design systems. It seems that it's giant amount of work. So how keep the creation of design system as effective as possible, and what to avoid, what to embrace? Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to tell you about is actually about that. So we tried not to build stuff which is not needed, which is not tested. That in that way you are effective because you don't have to iterate the stuff because it was already done before. So that's one way. Another one is like listen what is needed to the product, like talk to the product owners, talk to the other designers, developers, everybody, and prioritize as much as possible. And then you are efficient because of that, I guess.
Is there something you would avoid?
I would definitely avoid that, not building stuff like from the first idea, because that usually takes some time to work across the organization. So that's why like I try to build like the idea in the small and then bring it back. I think that's efficient.
Yeah, and something to embrace along the way. Probably depends as well. Yeah.
I think I already answered.
Yeah, I would say from what I've heard mostly from the developers that embracing the focus on communication in the team is very valuable because I can see that the team can get frustrated when there's quite a lot of resistance in the rest of the organization.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I would say if I was a developer. All right. Ivan asks, as front-end developer, do you implement design system in SAS, CSS, HTML, or also as React, Vue components?
Yes, depends. Again, on the organization, we are agency, so we are building for some other organization, and we are trying to build stuff based on like what skill the organization already have. In the past, or currently also, we are doing this approach. We are building the React components, but we doing it a little bit in different way, that we are able to extract the React part of it and use the components as vanilla JavaScript without the framework. So the components can be used on the websites which are not run by React, and also the components can be used in the React environment. So that's the probably something a little bit different than what you can see like most of the time, but it's also kind of complicated for developers to develop it that kind of way and cost time. And otherwise, yeah, that's usually mostly it. We use SAS because we need the class names with this kind of approach, for example, and it's pretty like standardized of it. Yeah, but it depends on the organization, what skill they already have. If they have a Vue developers, then let's do it in Vue.js. If they have Angular, then do it there.
Okay, thank you. Now let's see if we have some more questions. David asks, how do you measure efficiency? End-to-end delivery or compared to time not using the design system? Is there actually a way?
There is not like exact math behind this usually, because the things are fluid. It means like when you can compare what was before, but also like other things changes. So there could be influences from different stuff on that efficiency. But we try to like guesstimate with the designers and developers how much time we can. What was the word? I don't use it before.
Barriers, no boundaries.
No. I mean, how much time they save. With the design system itself, because that is what they can tell you. There's also some standard numbers on the internet. In some case studies, you can borrow that number, and then you can see like how efficient it is, and you can calculate like some breakpoints when the design system start to help you the return on the investment of the design system. So you can see like where it started makes money or saves money.
Okay, thank you. There are some more questions. Let's see the next one.
Maybe there are not.
Oh, there are. I can see there are 4 more. I'll just ask that directly. How much percent do you reuse of your old design systems when starting a new one?
We reuse. We are agency. We have built that internally, some base of the components that most of the design system has or most of the website has. So we reuse that as much as possible with some basic design, and then we customize design, tailor it to the organization as it should be. So not sure about the percentage. Let's say maybe 1/3, the first third, let's say, of the design system. So like buttons, cards, modals, whatever, tables, stuff like that. And the rest of it is custom for the organization. Depends what they need. What was the need of the design.
Okay. And I think that was our last question.
You said there were 4 more, or just 1?
Yeah, nothing's happening, so I would just move on right now. There is always space to ask Adam more questions. You can approach him wherever. Just contact us in Lighting Beetle, and I will get you in touch. I think you're very keen and willing to talk to people, and you can meet him on the meetups as well. Okay, let's just move to our next speaker. There will be a little bit of a tech setup, so please give us a second.
So I'm going to open this, right? I'm going to stop presenting.
Yeah, so directly from Prague in Czech Republic, he's our second speaker, Nathan. Nathan, can you hear us?
Yeah, loud and clear. Ciao, everybody.
Amazing. Hello. Could you please... Right there. Okay. Okay, so we can see you clearly, hear you clearly as well, and once you start sharing the screen, we'll be able to see the slides. Yeah, they're right there. Okay, Nathan. So Nathan is a UX copywriter currently working for Škoda Auto, as I said, based in Prague in Czech Republic. And he is behind the design system, which was actually awarded with the Red Dot Design Award. How's that feeling, Nathan?
Oh, it was good, you know, like when we won last year.
I can imagine. Yeah.
You have a lot of experience with how to write correct documentation, so I will just leave the stage for you.
All
Enjoy.
right. Okay, let's dive into this. I mean, I guess a lot of you here are going to be wondering how to start designing, creating a design system, or even just how to improve your existing design system. So I'd really like to focus on the documentation side of things and try and aim this at writers and hopefully inspire a few people. So let's get into this. Just a quick disclaimer that nothing in this presentation is proprietary, and everything can be found online. All thoughts and opinions are my own, and yeah. Just quickly, can you see my mouse cursor on the screen? Is that annoying, or maybe you can't? Okay, probably can't. Quick table of contents. This presentation deck will be available publicly after I've finished waffling on for half an hour. So I won't get into the table of contents just yet, but it's just useful for people reading the deck afterwards. So welcome. It's great to be here, and it's amazing that you're giving me your time today. So thanks very much. And yeah, as I mentioned, who is this talk for? It's predominantly for writers, but it might be useful for designers, product owners, creative technologists, devs, other design system stakeholders, anyone interested in design systems. But really, it's for writers. So, quick bit about me. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but in a nutshell, I am from the UK originally. I live in Prague, and I have almost 2 decades of writing experience, and yeah, that's it. So you can read about that afterwards if you want to. Okay, so let's talk about the design system that I currently work with, and that is called Flow. Škoda Flow is, as mentioned, an award-winning design system. We won the Red Dot Design Award last year, and yeah, it was created in 2019. It's run by a small, dedicated team working within Škoda brand, about 10 people. And yeah, on the right, you can see our recent rebrand. Škoda is changing and getting a fresh lick of paint, shall we say. On the left is some of the old branding, and just to give you a bit of comparison. And here's a few quick facts about Flow Design System. As I mentioned, it was created in 2019. It currently spans 4 environments. That's web, mobile, in-car, and voice assistant. And the design system, as well as all the components, UI libraries, all that kind of stuff. It also contains guidance on digital experience, our brand foundation, and writing style guidance. So why do we call it Flow? Well, all the libraries, icons, styles, and components seamlessly flow from one project to another. That's always been a bit of a mantra, that we really want to create this seamless experience between all the products. It's really important. It just made sense to call it Flow. So every design system needs a cool name, so that's ours. A couple of mock-ups and a little bit of our philosophy. It was really good to listen to Adam's talk and just reconfirm a few things, that design systems are constantly evolving, they're fractal, they loop back into each other. You would really have to be building a very selective singular product to not want to use one or not see any value in using a design system. But I'm pretty sure that most companies are building multiple products these days. And, if you're building multiple products, then you really need that that sort of fractal approach where you're just reusing components and you just keep going back to what is successful in the UI. So, woo, fractal, baby. All right, here's some fun facts about text, because we focus so hard on design and development and building all the stuff and all the kind of stuff like that we kind of overlook the importance of text. Okay, so digital products cannot function without text. I mean, please find me one. Find me a game or a piece of software or anything that you will interact with on a screen that doesn't have text. It's got a little mock-up here of a kitten app. There's no text. I mean, how do you use it? It's not going to work. Artificial intelligence cannot create text to match the complexity of human language. It might do in the future. I mean, we're seeing some pretty good results with, art and Mid-Journey and all that kind of stuff. Can it make text? No, it can't. And if you think, languages have been around for centuries, they are constantly evolving, being built upon complex stuff, right? It's what we use. From my perspective, language is technology, typography is design, and text is for humans. Humans need text. If we don't have text, how's it going to work? Okay, so got the sort of preamble out the way, and just check the time. Where to begin? Okay, you've got a design system, it's filled with components, you've got a bunch of designers, you want to build some products, you're going to have to document stuff. It's got to be done. If it's not done, you're going to fail. So where do you start? At the start, you create the language, you choose the language, you need to assess who your design system's audience is, you need to establish what your design system team's needs are, whether that's what language they're using, language of the product's audience, and yeah, you just need to sort of give everything a good evaluation before you really decide how you're going to begin your documentation. I really push for documentation to be created in English. There's some facts here about English. I'm not going to go into massive details, but unless you're creating a really specific product in a country where you're only going to hire speakers of that language, then sure, maybe you want to have some documentation that isn't in English. But I'm pretty sure with like international design teams and people creating products in multiple languages, then you need to decide on a language, and English is kind of the easiest. So that's my point of view. Right, as the writer, before anything really begins, I'm just going to go over some sort of useful activities that you should try and do before you start documenting. And the two key things which I think are really useful is that you create and distribute a glossary of your vocabulary that you're going to use for your design system. And that would include, component names, all of the terminology, and also maybe just like go over some acronyms, abbreviations, and anything that's brand related. Because, when you're working in a product team and you're getting new designers come in and people are just waffling on in all of these, design language, and, I don't know, in the Škoda environment, we're talking about AC and stuff like this. It's, it's very easy for people to get lost, and, it's just useful to have that terminology written down somewhere. And I feel like if you're going to be a writer working in a product team, then this is one of the first things that you should do. It's a really useful thing, and yeah, you should just do it. Your design system team, to keep everyone on the same page, you should be aware of different styles of UX and UI text and content. You should be aware of different fonts, typography, casing styles, really important. Formatting that you're going to use, language variants, whether it's US or UK, British English, anything that's text related that could impact your documentation writing. I would imagine that a lot of designers, if they're reading documentation and they're seeing lots of inconsistencies, then they're not going to really feel like that was well-written documentation, or they're perhaps not really going to believe in it too much. So pretty important. As a writer, you should be asking the brand or your product team or whoever you're working for, maybe it's an agency, whatever, you should sort of really ask, like, what is the digital experience going to look like? You should visualize what that's going to be like in the future. How many products are coming? Are you going to try and do other different kinds of products, different touch points, different environments? This will all really help with planning a component roadmap, which is obviously like the backbone of documentation. So yeah, ask how many products are planned, and just dig into it and ask lots of questions. Okay, ways of working. I think it's really good if you are starting in a new team and you're a writer, then you should organize kickoff meetings, say hello, share your terminology, ask lots of questions, and discuss the next steps. Next step, really, I'm just thinking, if you haven't got any documentation written and there's a design system, in its sort of genesis stage and it's just being created, then your most likely next step is going to be the component roadmap. So kind of a no-brainer, but you should schedule some regular meetings, work in Agile, Scrum, whatever works best for your team. Sprints create great momentum for delivering work, and always do regular reviews of the documentation that you're writing. And try and keep the topics separate in the meetings. I think that's really helpful. Create a Slack channel. Yeah, I think everyone knows that, but it's way better than emails and phone calls and, I don't know, pigeon mail, whatever, right? So have a Slack channel. Easy. Okay. From my perspective, writers should ask lots of questions. You should, you might be a little UX writer, whatever, right? But you should ask lots of questions. Think of yourself as a journalist. Even if you think those questions are dumb, right? Because you're the writer, you're not supposed to understand every single aspect of components or corner radiuses or padding or how many pixels something is. Like, that's not like your field of expertise. So ask those dumb questions and don't worry about it. No-brainer. Use Figma for creating and storing your design system assets. Like I said, as a writer, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's really easy to get bogged down in Word documents and saving things and blah, 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 blah. Don't get precious over your text. You don't need to save every single piece of text that you write. Just keep it lean, keep it simple, and just, keep it up to date. Pretty easy, right? Okay, talked about this a bit already, but component roadmaps are super important. So define all of your component terminology. I think that even if you think of like your top favorites, like 5 favorite design systems, if you look at them all side by side, they're going to call their components different things. Okay, it's just the nature of the beast. And you need to decide what you're going to call yours. So it's pretty obvious. And just remember that not all components are used across all touch points. For example, like I've written there, bottom sheets for mobile, but not for web, and on it goes. So I think you know that kind of stuff already. Really good way to write the component roadmap is to apply the atomic approach. Pretty straightforward, but if you didn't, like, how would you structure it, right? So start with the smallest and work your way up to the biggest stuff. And yeah, it should kind of build itself. As a quick guide to the atomic approach, I'm sure perhaps everyone in the room knows about it already, so I don't need to go into it. This is kind of important. If you're working in a design system team and you are working alongside a lot of other product teams, then have a cutoff point. Like, where does your work start and end? Well, obviously at the atoms all the way through to organisms. But have a cutoff point and, try and stick to it, because I've seen this get a bit hairy before, shall we say. So yeah, have a good cutoff point and know what you're documenting, and then leave the rest to the product team. Easy. The old legenda, the traffic light system. I've I've shown this slide to people before, and they thought this was like some sort of magic thing that we did. This is just emojis. It's quite simple. Have an emoji in the file name of the page title in Figma. If it's green, it's good. If it's yellow, it's work in progress. And if it's red, there's something wrong with it. Pretty simple, right? But it really helps everyone to know what's being done, what's live, and what's being worked on, etc., etc. So there you go. All right, what time are we on? Good. Okay, how to structure your documentation. So you've got the component, you're writing the documentation. How do you structure it? So you need to sort of define some hierarchy based on your design system needs. Try and keep it consistent throughout the documentation. Your audience will be familiar with this pattern and look and copy other design systems. So, I'm sure when you're looking at material or carbon or whatever, you're going to see some patterns in how they do their hierarchy. Try and do usage first, then like go through behavior and placement, and then right at the bottom of the list, you probably want to have some microcopy rules. That's again something that the writer would be really interested in. So yeah, there we go, as I mentioned. So, oh yeah, I forgot about do's and don'ts. They're always useful. Okay, just a quick overview on some writing styles. I think it's really helpful if the design system team and the product teams understand the terminology that is used for writing styles. Generally, in my experience, I've heard a lot of designers and developers just refer to all text as copy. That's fine, but it's not really true and it's not really accurate. There's lots of different styles of text, and I think it's really helpful to know what they mean. Even just general formatting jargon, right? Writers are going to be talking about ellipses and ampersands and colons and full stops and periods and terminal punctuation and blah, 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 blah. And, you just kind of need to know what that is, right? So always good to have everybody on the same page. I think it's really useful to learn a bit of Unicode. I could definitely learn more, but I think it's useful if everybody just knows what this is. Okay, some writing style tips for your design system. This is just kind of like my preference, but I think it's like always helpful for people to know. Got more than 2 items in a list, use some bullet points. People don't like reading large chunks of text, so break it up. I prefer clear formatting. I always think about casing, try and reduce the punctuation. It's all kind of simple stuff. And yeah, just like I said, the bottom point, it's universal. Just make sure everybody in your design system team knows what the terminology is, what you're talking about. The art of copying. Okay, so you're writing some documentation. I would probably visit the component gallery if you just want a kind of unbiased view. Obviously, everyone's got their favorite design systems that they go to. And yeah, I mean, obviously our whole industry is founded upon copying. But if you're going to copy and paste text from other design systems, at least be nice enough to rewrite it. So there it is. Component gallery, easy. Okay. So what else can you have in your design system other than component guidelines in terms of documentation? I think you could have a little bit of digital experience, some customer experience, tone of voice stuff. Accessibility is really important these days. And yeah, maybe a bit of writing style, whatever you want, right? But it's important to remember that, your design system doesn't just have to be like an A to Z list of components and documentation. There's other things you can have in there that just, help the overall understanding. Okay, some of my favorite tools and tools that I think writers, specifically Agile UX UI writers, should be using and should be interested in. Figma, obviously. Obviously, also your favorite design system platform. I heard that this talk is sponsored by Zeroheight. That's nice. There are other ones too you can look into. I'm not going to say what my preferences are. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, use some web browsers. You can use Word or text edit sometimes if you want to. I mean, if you need a project management tool, sure, use one. I don't really use one. You could use Grammarly as well, but just be aware that Grammarly isn't, for a start, it's not always accurate, and secondly, it's not secure either. So kind of use it with a bit of caution, but the plugin is quite helpful sometimes. And that's it. Kind of got through this a bit quicker than I thought, but yeah.
Yeah, as well as Adam, both of you were quite quick today. So I will just ask you to stop sharing. All right. And we will pin you here for the rest of the audience so we can see you.
This is fun.
Okay. Okay, so we do have a couple questions, which we would like you to answer. The first one from Timo is, what is your best advice for writing text that will be translated to many languages? Documentation or UX writing?
Good question. I would definitely keep it as simple as possible. I would, and these are things I actually really do. I would use Google Translate to see how it translates. I do that quite a lot with even just, when I'm creating UI text, I translate it to make sure it's like, well, firstly, to see how long it gets, because translated text always increases in length from English. It's kind of just a known thing. But yeah, just to see if it's going to make sense. Like sometimes it doesn't make sense, and you have to like think how to rephrase that piece of text. So I would definitely do that. And yeah, just like don't, if you're a native British speaker, or even if you're not, but like if you're using like lots of idioms and I don't know, like slang language and stuff, it's just not going to translate well. So better to KISS, keep it simple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was a nice kiss from you. Thank you. Let's get to the second question. Adam asks, as a designer, I struggle with naming components and establishing a shared language with the team. Do you have any tips for this? We don't have a dedicated writer.
Well, I think there's your biggest problem. In my opinion, all product teams and all design system teams need a dedicated writer. It's just kind of a no-brainer when you really think about it. But in terms of coming up with that list, like I said, if you haven't got the writer there, then it's going to be up to one of the designers. But you need to really think about sharing, creating a list of terminology for your components, and then just sharing that among the team. And even if that means you have to do like a brainstorming session where you just look at other design systems, and I've done this with with the Flow team at Škoda, just to really agree on like, if you're going to call, what kind of component it is. And obviously for certain mobile touch points, you are going to have to call it two things. But yeah, just agree on it, right? Sit down with everybody and come up with a list of terminology and just be like, yeah, this is what we're going to use. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Next question is from Martin. How do you approach casing and ensure that it doesn't become an utter mess? Thank you. Loving the presentation, by the way, he says.
Oh, thanks very much. Casing is such an important topic for many languages, obviously, that use casing. In English, it really does convey different meanings. If you get a text message from your mum and it's all in uppercase, you're in big trouble. So,
yeah.
But definitely sit down again with your design system team and make sure that everybody understands the different styles of casing. There's 4 different styles: lowercase, sentence case, title case, and uppercase. And just be like really clear with everyone, and make sure they all know what that means. And then as you begin to build up your documentation, make sure you write those microcopy rules and just agree on how you're going to have casing in the UI, right? So if it's buttons, for example, and you are all going to stick to sentence casing, then just, stick to that. Have some rules for it, perhaps if you've got some product names or proper nouns or acronyms, then obviously they're not going to be sentence case. But, just have to make sure everyone is aware of that. And just try and stick to it. I mean, a lot of big brands are moving to sentence case. I prefer it too, but there's obviously certain exceptions. Like I said, if you've got product name or something that needs title case or even uppercase, then just agree on it and just always stick to it. And if you've got that documentation written down and you've got those microcopy guidelines, then you could be like, hey, Mr. Rogue Designer, you need to read that documentation because we write it like this. So there you go.
Yeah, and regarding that, do you think that keeping it in the documentation is enough, or do you also do some kind of onboarding for writers?
I mean, yeah, I would definitely have it. We have it in our onboarding materials for writers, and I would definitely make people aware of it. I mean, it depends on the size of your organization or your project, obviously, but just having it written in the documentation is definitely the best place, because it's always that kind of rule book that you can use as a shield, but but definitely make everyone aware of what your style is, right?
Okay, thank you. Oliver asks, what are the top 3 traits or skills of a good UX writer?
Well, you got to be able to write, for sure. But I think that you need to, not obviously got to be able to write, but I think that if you need kind of a mixed background, because you need to be able to obviously always, like a designer, a good UX designer, you have to jump into the user's shoes and understand it from their point of view, which really means what it is to be able to read at a really low level. So, you have to understand that some people have very low reading abilities, and you have to see it from their perspective. So I would definitely do that. But I think having that mixed background is good. If you've done copywriting for marketing, then awesome. If you've written, if you've got a really successful social media platform and you've written tons of posts, whether it's for yourself or for a brand, that's also really useful. Maybe you proofread the dictionary. I have no idea, but you need definitely need a mixed background. And like I said, you always need to be able to jump into the user's perspective. And I think that goes across the board, right?
You working for Škoda, do you have some background from automotive?
No, actually none. I don't even have a car.
All right. Next question is by Scarlett. She asks, if you had one person to document as much as possible ASAP for an already existing system, what would you MVP include? Components, workflows, glossary, whatever?
That's a really, really good question. I would definitely have the components. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? You need the components. If they're split up by touch point, then please also do that, because you don't want any crossovers or any confusion over components in different environments. That would just be craziness. I mean, it really depends on the nature of the product you're building. I think a little bit of writing guidance, especially casing and things that do really affect the overall look, would be good. But a little bit of style, a little bit of patterns. Yeah, I mean, definitely the components though, and definitely really decide on that list and just go for it. And if you perhaps if you didn't even have all of the components documented, then you could really just pick, I don't know, the top 10 most important ones, right? Buttons and checkboxes and things that you're going to use regularly in the UI. So, yeah.
And wouldn't you use that person to clean the backlog to finally touch the things which were put on the parking lot?
Maybe. depends how much work they had to do, and it depends how much it depends how much I like them. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I don't know. It's lots of variables on that one, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, next question. Do you have a specific workflow for managing product copy from Figma to development? The multiple changes can sometimes make it messy.
Yeah, it does. You know, it depends. It depends on a lot of stuff. It really depends like how the design team or the product team is working. And obviously, you're going through lots of drafts and little pieces of text can get lost or missing or just not updated. I mean, the traffic light system is always like good, right? If something's green and it's ready to use, then I think we can all agree that we can use it. But yeah, I mean, just set up a system, right? You're already deeply invested in having a design system in itself. So just have a little system for signing off text. And yeah, I mean, just make sure the designers are aware of it and that they have updated it. And yeah, I mean, it's just communication, isn't it, right? So just have your writer talk to your designers.
Exactly, just like Adam said in the Q&A, the communication is gold. Yeah. All right. Do you have some tips for a company that wants to start their design system, but sadly the brand guidelines are against their UX UI principles, and we don't have control over that guidelines?
Ooh, I would hate to be in that position. I mean, you just kind of got to fight the tide a little bit sometimes. It depends. I mean, that's a really good and tricky question. I mean, you might just have to have that painful conversation and be like, look, we need to do it this way for these reasons. If all else fails, use user testing, right? Prove it. So, yeah, I don't know. That is really difficult. I hope that that's not someone's like actual real situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I would say that the communication would be important here as well. And sometimes it's tough to communicate with the especially marketing teams who are usually the owners of the brands. But as a marketeer, I can say it's possible. So and there, good luck and just keep on talking to them. All right, next question. Into how much detail do you usually go in the documentation? And there's a person saying that they usually tempted to go full ELY5 and then find themselves spending too much time over it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, you need a cutoff point for sure. I would try, like I sort of said when I was doing the presentation earlier, to have that content hierarchy for your documentation. And then, at least if you're covering like those bare minimum points, like usage and behavior and placement, do's, don'ts, microcopy, then at least that is all covered. If you keep getting like repetitive questions from designers, and they still need to know like how to, I don't know, implement a certain component, can we have a button next to a different button, so on and so forth, then obviously as the writer, you should be like, well, I need to actually put that into the documentation and have it there clearly. But I think if you've got that content hierarchy in place and you're pretty clear on it, then, you kind of know that each component's only going to take like a certain amount of text to finish it off. Some components you don't even need to have that much documentation for. It just depends like on the actual component and how you're going to use it, I guess. So yeah, I hope that I answered the question.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. There is one very interesting, which I'm gonna spotlight. Does your design system go full carpet bombing from apps through web to the actual in-car designs?
It's trying to. I'm perhaps not the best person to answer that question, but yeah, It's difficult to fully answer, but I would say like it's getting there. But obviously, Škoda Auto is like an enormous company with like, I don't know, like 40,000 employees, and there's always like tons and tons of like digital projects going on, and often teams aren't even aware of other teams that are building certain products. So I don't want to say like definitively that it is, but I mean, it's pretty comprehensive, and our design system, like I said, it's covering the 4 different environments, and yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. Yeah, I just don't want to say this like 100% because I don't know.
That's all right. Thank you. One more interesting. How do you collaborate with the designers? Do they provide an initial copy that you later polish, or do you actually teach the designers basics copy principles?
Well, that depends. Again, good question. That depends on the touch point and the product team involved or the design team involved, because some of the products we're making have dedicated writers, so they don't need as much involvement. Some of the touch points have a design team with designers that are pretty good with text, so they don't need as much assistance, but it's generally kind of a mixture. And, I usually, even designers who think that they're not very good at writing, they kind of still can do it well enough to get the point across, of what they need in that screen. And then, yeah, sure, like a UX writer can just come along and polish it up and give it the thumbs up and off it goes. So kind of depends on the situation. Yeah.
Thank you. And I will take this as the last question, as we have tons, but it's about the time we say goodbye. But before we do that, there's the last question. How much product context is valuable for you when making decisions, if any? If yes, how or when do you gather the product context? And do you have any advice for designers communicating with the writers about the context?
Yeah, I mean, that is, it is super important, and it's something that we've even made like visual charts on how to adjust like a writing style to a touch point. Specifically, if you think of like Škoda making like in-car experiences, and they've got, an infotainment system, this style of writing, this kind of UI text, is going to be like way different to anything you would have on a website, right? It's going to be ultra simple, really clear, and no marketing, like really just keep it really, really simple. So yeah, we're definitely like always adjusting the writing style to the touch point, and it's something that designers need to keep in mind as well. I mean, Škoda has like tons of rules on it, especially with the infotainment stuff in the car. It's got to have like certain ergonomics. It's got to be like reachable and tappable in like a certain way. You can't have like stuff in the way. So yeah, really, we're going into massive detail on it. But then if you compare that, I don't know, to some like website text or something, it's going to be like totally different, right? Because it's a website, you've got tons of space, you can have some marketing copy in there, it's depends on the touch point.
And any tips on the communication with the designers?
Well, like I said, use Slack and just keep everyone on the same page by having like a terminology glossary that you've written and given out to everybody. I think that's a really good thing that a writer can do. And yeah, just be really proactive. Don't assume that designers know the writing language that you're using with them. It's, like I said, not everybody knows all of the terminology of different grammar mechanics and stuff like this. So just communicate, right?
Yeah, again, yeah. All right, that is it. Thank you. And this will be just my few final words. So see you sometimes in the future, Nathan.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
And And this is about it. So these were our two speakers on the topic of design systems. You attended the Lighting Talks on design systems. It's an event provided by Lighting Beetle, a CX design studio from Bratislava, Slovakia. I'm happy that you stayed with us. The recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so please follow us and you will be notified directly in your email. And I will send you the feedback form about how satisfied you were with the setup here in our office, and then there watching the stream online. I will see you sometimes in the future in the Lighting Talks on some other topic. Thanks everybody for attending here in person, online, and I will see you sometimes in the future. Bye-bye.